couple months ago, Meta announced they were laying off 20% of their workforce, while at the same time doubling AI spend to $135 billion. But they're not alone. Other companies, Oracle, Amazon, a bunch of companies are taking the same action. But there's a big mistake that regular guys like us are making, I think. When we see these types of stories, we think, oh, well, this impacts my stock portfolio, this impacts the way that big tech is operating. But what we don't recognize is that this is actually impacting the way that everybody does business across organizations, realtors, insurance agents, underwriters, accountants, lawyers. What we're seeing happen at the big tech, the largest companies in the world, are actually starting to manifest in smaller companies. And I want to talk about this a little bit today so that we can kind of start to recognize this trend, not just at the top, but all the way down to the bottom. But first, before we get into that, let's take a closer look at what's happened at Meta, because I think it's interesting and it's indicative. So again, in March, Meta announced this major layoff initiative. In May 20, just a few weeks ago, we started to see the first major wave of layoffs begin. They laid off 8,000 jobs while basically cutting off 6,000 new jobs that they were thinking about hiring, all gone, all terminated. And quite frankly, some of these people deserved it. You know exactly what I'm talking about. These young Gen Z women who are working at the pool in bikinis on their laptops while sipping on frappuccinos. You don't listen, you don't belong there. You probably need to go find another job, right? Maybe bartender's a better job, but I digress. Maybe barista, but listen, you don't deserve to be working at one of the most prestigious, largest organizations in the world if you show up to the job at 10 o'clock in sweatpants for a Zoom meeting while enjoying the Starbucks. Like, it's not a cruise ship, guys. You don't belong there. But, you know, at the same time, there are guys that did belong there. You know, you did everything right. You worked hard in high school, you went to college, you worked hard to learn software, you worked your way in the door at this company, and then you just found yourself like out of sorts. Maybe you didn't have the exact right skill set, or maybe you didn't adapt to the company fast enough. Like, that sucks. I don't think you necessarily deserve to be laid off. But the reality is that you're kind of getting caught up in a new trend. Trend is maybe not the right word. You're being caught up in a new era of software, right? You're just kind of in the wrong place at the wrong time. And it doesn't, it doesn't mean you can't move anywhere, but that's what's happening at Meta. You did everything right, you ran into a skills mismatch. In addition, I think what's also interesting along those thoughts is, in addition to the layoffs, Meta transferred roughly 7,000 employees to AI-related initiatives, while at the same time removing layers of management and then consolidating teams around these AI-driven initiatives. And listen, this hit the Bay Area the hardest. This is another trend that I haven't talked about much on the channel, but is clearly obvious, is that the past way of doing work was you need to move to where the work was. You need to move to New York, downtown Miami, you need to move to the Bay Area to work in tech. You need to move to these big cities. That's not the case anymore, guys. You can I make a good living. I'm looking, I've got tons of opportunities that are coming my way. And I live in the burbs, guys. I don't live in the middle of a big city. That old model is dead. And, I think a lot of people, especially young people, don't want to hear this. No, I need to live in the middle of a giant city where rent is $2,000 a month for a studio apartment. And then, I spend $26 on lunch at the local cafeteria. I just think that old way of living is dead. It doesn't work that way anymore. In any event, the California Bay Area was hit really hard at Meta, where on May 29th, the Warren filings revealed that 3,200 jobs in the Bay Area were eliminated. It's just really expensive to live there. It's really expensive to operate in these types of areas, right? The real moral of the story, though, is, I think that what everyone should take away, in addition to some of these trends and lessons that I'm seeing, is that the old roles are changing, and that middle management is flattening, and that AI results are now becoming mandatory. If you work on a computer, it's becoming mandatory that you understand how to get results from AI. Again, we covered this a few days ago. I'll post a link. I've referenced this video quite a bit recently just because I think it's one of the most informative videos in what is happening at ClickUp, right? ClickUp laid off a huge percent of their workforce, 22%, and they're basically saying, hey, we're just gonna leverage our top engineers using AI agents. And while they're a software company and they're leveraging AI engineers, this concept manifests in every company. And I wanna kind of highlight this a little bit because, you know, we talk a lot about software and SaaS, but, you know, I think that that's maybe a little bit abstract for the everyday man, and I wanna cover that in a little bit more detail here today. The old model for software is we hire a bunch of software engineers, we build these large teams of programmers writing code, and then we expand management layers to make sure that they're doing a good job. But the new model that we're seeing in software is a small workforce using AI tooling. We reassign, we find the people that are really executing at a high level on AI. We reassign these top performers, these AI initiatives, and then we eliminate all the middle management and overlapping roles. So it's kind of like a really performance-based workforce now. It's like, can you operate AI agents? Can you handle a fleet of AI agents? Yeah, you're a stud, you're gonna get paid big bucks. No, well, you're gonna get phased out. You're just not gonna, there's nowhere to hide. There's not gonna be anywhere to hide. And again, what we see here at Meta is that this looks like firing 8,000 people, canceling 6,000 job openings, and reassigning 7,000 to the top performers to AI work. That's what it looks like at a big company like Meta. That's what it looks like in software, but it's also manifesting itself in other industries as well, like in real estate. Like, you used to pay people to qualify leads, to do initial outreach, to schedule appointments, to do market research. You don't need humans to do that anymore, guys. You don't. One agent can now handle the lead volume of 5 agents. And what we're gonna see here is that the top performers are gonna rise to the top. The guys and girls that understand how to use AI agents properly and how to build out these automated systems are gonna be able to do the work that 5 agents used to be able to do. And I think it's kind of exciting in a way because, you know, I know a lot of realtors, that's like a side job. It's always kind of a joke for me. Like whenever I'm looking to buy or sell a home, it's like, oh, I didn't realize that 50% of my friends were real estate agents. I actually lost a friendship about a decade ago when I was buying a home because I ended up not using someone who was not like a really close friend, but they were a friend. We didn't use them as a realtor because I was like, you know, you're like a side hustle realtor. I'd rather work with someone who is like full-time real estate, who's been in the industry a long time. Anyway, I digress. The point I'm trying to make here is that if you are in real estate, if you're a realtor, you can use these systems to do the work that used to, you know, it used to take a full team. You can do that by yourself now, okay? Law firms. And we covered how attorneys are being replaced in a video a few weeks ago. I'll post a link to that video here. I think it was really good. A lot of people seem to really enjoy it. I mean, thousands of comments, pretty crazy. But law firms, you know, used to pay people for client intake, to review contracts, to do case research, to do deposition summaries. And you can use AI to do a lot of that now. And you just review the work. Right? Like in the past, you would have each partner would supervise 5, 6, 7 support staff, but now you can get away with a partner just having 2 to 3 support staff, and they're just managing AI agents to optimize and scale. Again, you're in this position now. Like if I was an attorney, I would say the first thing I'd be asking a potential team member, support staff would be, how are you using AI to do your job? Right? And if you don't have like a really good, clear explanation of how you're using AI, I'm not hiring you. You know, I'm in the media and marketing world, and I do this now. If I'm bringing on someone who's going to be a video editor, social media manager, I'm saying, how are you using AI? How would you use AI to do your job better? And if you don't have like 3 to 4 things that I've never heard of before, like you're just not going to get hired. I can't hire you. I'm sorry. And I know that hurts. That stings, but you know, I can't hire you. And if your answer is like, oh, I just throw a bunch of stuff into script and I just copy and paste what comes out, I can't hire you either, you know? You've got to say, okay, well, I use AI to do the initial editing and do the audio cleanup and then change scripts, and then I use another program to like create some interesting B-roll, and then I I run and I take 10 pieces of B-roll and I pick out the top 3 to 5, and then I run that. And then on the back end, I go into the Meta business platform, and I see what were my top performing videos, and I use AI to screen those out, and I find the B-roll that was really effective in the hook, and then I repurpose it. Like, that's what I need. That's, okay, cool. You can work with me. I can work with that. But if your answer is like, I copy and paste, or I don't like using AI at all, then you're just not hireable. And that is, again, manifesting not just at these top companies like Meta, but happening at smaller firms. Like, look at insurance, for example. Now you're using AI to gather documents, extract information, analyze risk, review applications. Guys, an underwriter that used to be able to underwrite 10 cases a day can now underwrite 50 cases a day. Period, full stop. And you might say, Mark, that sounds exhausting. Yeah, I get it. We talked about that yesterday. I'll post a link to it here. Like, that is one of the things I think that's frustrating about AI, is that the amount of work that's going to be expected has 10x'd, 5x at the least. Accounting, AI is doing your bookkeeping, reconciling transactions, drafting reports. You used to have 2 CPAs with 10 bookkeepers. Now you have 2 CPAs with 3 bookkeepers. The expected output from all these roles has changed. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. And I think that's probably one of the reasons that people don't like AI or upset with AI, because, it's like, I think the trend with AI is the more AI you use, the more lazy you become. But the trend should be the more AI I use, the more productive I can become. And if that's where we find yourself, that's when you find yourself into those 7,000 people at Meta who got reassigned to cool AI projects. That's how you get assigned to the jobs that are paying $1 million a year. I would love to have one of those. I'm not in a job that gets paid $1 million a year. I don't make $1 million a year in my business, but I think that AI opens that opportunity, and that's where we should be. Anyway, guys, tell me if you like today's video or not. I wanted to make things more practical instead of just saying, like, what's happening at the biggest firms in the world. Obviously, what we're seeing at Meta is starting to impact what we do at a smaller scale, and I wanted to kind of cover that. I think that's interesting. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments, and check out yesterday's video here where we cover the things that are really pissing me off about AI. All right, check it out there. I'll see you there. Peace.